So we have two interviews that we did, and these are older interviews. Both of these doctors have won our award for best doctor to work for. We spend 25 minutes with each of them talking about how they run their practice, what makes their practice and team special, things that they do differently, why their culture is such a great place that people stay and patients love. And the reason that that happens is that the best doctor to work for comes at our annual event. It's an annual awards show or recognition, and everyone here has the opportunity to participate in that. It is a huge part of Crown Council membership. So coming up January 2026, we'll gather together where, like we always do once a year, and you have the opportunity right here, if you can see my mouse, to recognize your doctor and recognize your team. This is a huge part of the annual event and a great part of building a culture of success recognition. So you can recognize your doctor here, recognize your team here, team member of the year, and we're doing a very special recognition night, our lookup recognition. This is an opportunity to award team members and people in your life a celebration of hope, inspiration, and vision. Our Lookup Awards call us to stay positive through challenges, rise up above negativity, seek purpose beyond ourselves, and dream bigger. So these are recognition ideas, so you can recognize anybody on your team that fits these ideas and maybe others that you can come up with. You can scroll through some of these. Our Lookup Award, someone who inspires vision, hope, and perspective. How about our Light Up Award for lighting up the rooms, conversations, and spirits? Tell us about who that is. Talk about the Move Up Award for growth, advancement, something in your practice that has moved your practice up, a big leap forward. So you can see here, these are all the ideas. We want to recognize you. We want to help you recognize your team at the Crown Council annual event. This is always such a fun, positive night where we get to be together and share the great stories of Crown Council. So just a small plug there to work on your Crown Council recognition nominations and how special those can be together. So, all right, so our first interview here is with Dr. Lindell Kemet. Lindell won our Best Doctor to Work For, and we're happy to share this little interview with him. Enjoy. I'll check back in as soon as it's done, and we'll hear from our next award winner. All right, enjoy. Here, let's just start then at the beginning. Well, maybe let's start before the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are now, where you're practicing, where are you coming from right now?
Absolutely. I'm in Minot, North Dakota. Not many people will probably know where that is. Just 60 miles from Canada, straight in the middle of the state. Yeah, we're up here. It's cold. It's like 0 today. Last week I had to yell at my kids because they're wearing shorts to school.
Yes.
So it was 60. So it's odd weather up here, but North Dakota is a great place to practice. When I came out of dental school in 2007, I always knew I wanted to go home to practice, which was North Dakota. I didn't know where. In fact, when someone told me I needed to go to Minot, I laughed and I said, no, no, that's not going to happen. But doing some research about the area, which is not always just looking and seeing how many dentists there are, how large the community is. I looked at the people, and these are my people. This is the type of place that I want to be. My son is shooting archery, learning how to shoot archery. He's 10 years old, and he's learning from a guy who taught at the Olympic level. And he just moved here from Sacramento, and he said, "I got to get out of there." And so people are moving here now. I shouldn't say that too loud, but people are moving here now because of that. You know, we are attracting people that want to be kind of out of that place where the country is not one. They don't want the country to go. And you know, North Dakota is one of those great places that is
That's
still
cool.
that last holdout, I think.
Well, it's my favorite part of your bio online. He wears cowboy boots and scrubs just because. There they are. Yes.
This is my day off, whatever,
That's
right? I mean,
awesome.
it's comfortable, right?
Very good. Hey, well, will you tell us a bit about biggest influences, how you got into dentistry, how you chose it as a career? Can you tell that story?
Um, Very odd. So my dad drills water wells his entire life. He has a double degree in English and history, and he drills water wells. He's a contractor basically for a living. I did that growing up. I was 11 years old. I mean, driving trucks. People think that that's silly, but that's what I was doing literally at that age. I'm 6'7", so it didn't look odd, I guess, at the time. I've never been pulled over, so that's okay. Uh, but my mom is a nurse, and so a lot of my family members are nurses. So my sister's an RN as well. So you take this kind of, I would say, entrepreneurial, like I own my own business. Dad says I drill holes, I just charge more per foot. But here we are with medicine as well, taking things that are broken and fixing them. I mean, that's what our business does. He has built his own irrigation systems and drilling equipment, things like that. So I have this farmer mentality. I took that to dentistry and in medicine, of course, it just makes sense. So that's how I literally approach everything. I'm able to look at something and go, but why is that happening? And if I wanted to fix that, what was the etiology in the first place? I don't want it to break. So that's where my focus really is in dentistry, and I think that's fairly unique.
Yeah, very unique. And when you a lot of this listeners that will share this with are young docs, learning from you, being mentored by you. Can you talk about some of the lessons you learned early on from your dental, just as a dental student, time as a student, things that you did when you were early on learning the dentistry craft?
Um, Basically, the big thing that is the takeaway is when you come out of dental school, take what you have received, which may not necessarily be how to prep a filling or how to prep a crown, but take that experience as I just gained this piece of paper. That is the most important thing that you have coming out of dental school, not the skills that you've learned, because those skills are nowhere near what a dentist needs, and will have eventually. So take the piece of paper and use that to learn more. That piece of paper is your license to an opportunity to become the dentist that you want to be, because you're not going to be that person within 1 year, 3 years of being coming out of school. It's going to take a long time to hone your craft. A friend of mine's brother was 10 years out of school when we were in dental school, and I asked him, I said, so do you think that you're kind of at the place that you want to be right now? And he was about 10 years in to dentistry, and he said, no, not there yet. He was still learning at 10 years, and so here I am at 17 years and I'm still learning. So
Nice.
I don't know where the top, middle, bottom of my career is, but if you take that every day and say, I'm going to take a percentage of my income or whatever it is, and I'm going to focus on putting it back, not into the business, but into myself, that will pay dividends in the future. Yeah, that's probably my
Cool.
biggest advice.
Nice. I love that. So when you graduated, can you tell that story? Where and how did you decide? What happened? Where did you work? And what did you learn from those first few years when you graduated dental school?
So as I said, I graduated from University of Minnesota in 2007, and I actually chose University of Minnesota because when I was shadowing different dentists, the ones that I felt that were the most confident to do all procedures were seemingly coming out of Minnesota. We have a lot of dentists from other parts of the country. We don't have our own dental school here in North Dakota, so I kind of chose the school based on what I was seeing in the communities. And when I graduated from there, I was able to I actually went into the Indian Health Service. Wanted to. I kept telling myself and others, I suppose, that in 5 years I want to be where I'm going to be, but that's not now. And so, as I mentioned at the outset of this, or the onset of this interview, is that you don't know a whole lot coming out of dental school. And I didn't want to be practicing on my friend and perf a tooth, and now we have to place an implant, and or whatever it is, because that's all part of the learning process. Medicine's the same way. So you go and you do a residency or whatever it is, and you learn under the tutelage of somebody else. And so that was one of my big drivers for going into the Indian Health Service. I did about a little over 2 years in South Dakota. I was invited to join a residency program, which I did with Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. And then after that, I went back to Minnesota, did 2 years in Minnesota. And that was kind of, I was working not only in a private practice, a large group private practice, 5 owners, me as the lone associate, a couple of specialists that came in every other week. It was I was also moonlighting at Children's Dental Services 2 days a week, and so I was working 6 days a week, and I kind of saw this shift of political issues in Minnesota. And even though I went to parochial high school in Minnesota, I lived in a dormitory in high school, believe it or not. And so that was I almost felt like at home in Minneapolis, but I decided I had to get out of there. I had to go home. And so that was when I made the move back up to North Dakota. I purchased a practice from a retiring dentist here in 2012. It was one of those things that I called 3 different people in the area. And one said, well, I don't know if my son's coming here and he's got a friend that's coming here. They're just graduating from school. And he even said, yes, old guys, we could really price the young guys out if we wanted to, because, we don't have a whole lot of expenses. And he's telling me this on the phone, like basically trying to tell me, no, don't come. Guys, I try not to speak ill well. So, but holds high political position in the state. Let's just say that. And another guy who's just down the hall from me, actually, which he said, absolutely, would love to have you. Loved that phone call. And then I talked to a third one who was actually down the hall as well. And he said, and he was an orthodontist, and he said, you know what? I might have an option for you. He said, let me talk to this guy that I think might be ready to retire. And he said, if he calls you back, buy his practice. And that's how it happened. He had this old practice that was, 3-op practice. He had about 360,000 in production every year. And I bought it for 165 cash and put every technology into it. It didn't come with a computer. I didn't buy the records. There was nothing here except old equipment. And the patients that were loyal. So I put in, new ADAC chairs and electric handpieces and sterilization and a Sirona cone beam and CEREC. I was already a CEREC mentor at the time. And of course, computers. And took out the film processing room. And I did it for probably under 600,000. And within a few months, my bank projections had just lined up. And at that point, the bank said, do what you want to do. We're happy. We don't get anyone that gets these projections and hits them spot on or exceeds them. And so I was able to do basically anything I wanted at that point. 8 months in, I knew I needed to grow that small little 3-op practice, 1,500 square foot practice. But that was the height of the boom in North Dakota. And you guys remember the oil boom in 2014, 13? It was crazy up here. There was not a place to rent, and the land was more expensive than Toronto. So you couldn't buy land, you couldn't build. There was no people to build the practice up here. We had just gone through a large flood, and so there were no contractors you could pay, even at double the rate. And so people thought that I was coming up here to make money off of them. So there was this really bad feeling of like, oh, he's just here to make money off of me, even though I could have built the same practice in Minneapolis for half the price. And I came up here, and the price that I was charging people was 20% less than Minneapolis. I came up here because of the people, and they were the ones saying that I'm a foreigner, even though I'm from North Dakota. It's just a very odd situation. So here I am 8 months in designing a practice, and I was finally into that practice, the one I'm currently in now, in 2014. So it took 20 months from the time I bought the practice until I built a brand new practice, 9 operatories, built for two full-time working dentists. It's it was one of the contenders for ADA Practice Design of the Year. I designed it from my head, and an architect who was just kind of up and coming at the time. Now he's built, gosh, 4 or 5 of the best practices in North Dakota now.
Cool.
And so it's really cool to just be part of this community of not
Yeah.
only uh, architecture in North Dakota, but just dentistry in general. So
Yeah.
just really happy.
When you look back at that whole process from dental school to where you are now, would you do it different, or advice to a young doctor just exiting dental school who's like, I'm going to work for a health clinic and then I'm going to buy my own practice? Is that a good route? Would you advise that to someone?
Okay, so here's my
Okay.
let's get personal.
Okay.
Um, I will say that I have I have talked to many dentists who have said, "Man, I would love to join your practice.
Hmm.
My wife won't let me move. My husband won't let me move. There's no way that I could take my kids out of the place that I'm at because they came out of school and they said, well, here's where we are, and we'll do this for a while. And for a while, all of a sudden tied them in to the system in that area. So coming from my experience, um, what I minor things, I would do minor things differently. Uh, but very few. I think the thing that I was able to do is I was single. So I didn't have anything or one to tie me down. Um, and that's something that everybody has to take into account, I believe. If you think that I really want to go rural, we're not rural. We got a town of 50,000 people, we got anything and everything you want. But if someone says, no, but I like being in this municipality, this town of 500,000 or 1 million people, that's what I want. Um, then that's where you're going to stay. So to be able to say, I'm going to do this for 3 or 4 years, and then I'm going to go do what I want. Make sure your partner's on board with that, because I've tried to attract people here, um, and to a person, it's I can't go to North Dakota. I want to be in Virginia. I want to be in California. I want to be in, a larger city, something like that. So I would just say talk it over. Really, really strong conversations with your spouse, because your spouse needs to be on board with anything that is in your career. Um, we travel a lot in North Dakota, and um, I can be chairside with a patient at 10 after 4 and be on a 5:10 flight. Um, that's taking off. Stuart, you laugh because it's like, really? Like, I live in Minneapolis, but I'd have to take half the day off to get to a
Yeah.
5 o'clock flight. Here, I really almost don't have to. But we do travel a lot here, and if you want to, like, we say we make hay when the sun shines, right? So when it's cold out, what else are you going to do? Like, we're going to do dentistry, and we do a lot of great dentistry around here. But we also play. So uh, we go to Arizona, we go to Florida, whatever. I mean, you just hop on a plane and go, or drive. It's just longer. So
Nice.
I think a good friend of mine, he lived in Colorado, and he ended up moving to a smaller town in Duluth at the middle of his career. And I asked him why, and he said, I found out that when I always wanted to live in the mountains. He said, I'm a skier. I love that. He said, I found out that I was never able to because I couldn't get away from my practice. I'd be on the mountain and a patient would call. That's why I'd have to leave. And so he said, I literally had to move away so that I could be intentional about going back. And he said, I ski way more than I ever was able to living close to the mountain. And he lived in Golden, I believe.
Yeah.
So just little things like that you would never think of until the issue arises.
Yeah. Very good. Hey, if listeners missed the beginning of our conversation, Dr. Kemet was nominated and then voted the best doctor to work for at the Crown Council annual event a couple weeks ago, which was I loved it. It was so fun to have you on stage. Can you talk about, I mean, when the award comes through Best Doctor to Work For, that has to revolve a bit about more your team, really, and what they think of you. Can you talk about that, your philosophy of care, the culture of your practice, how did you build how you treat your team and your patients? Where does that come from?
Um, I think I I run my practice based on my personality, whether we're in the back singing and dancing or whatever we're doing. Um, I want my team to always feel that they're the priority. Um, the team, the patients, uh, they always see me picking up stuff. It's the leaders eat last type of
Hmm.
mentality. Um, that's what I've always thought about. That's the way I run my life. And so, for if I hear about somebody that is falling on hard times, in dentistry, we have a lot of women that work for us. I have a couple of divorcees in our practice, and one of them, she had moved out of her house, got a divorce, and she bought a house that was poorly built. And it was a new condo, and it was just the contractor was run out of town type of thing. Um, Leaking this, mold here, there, whatever it was. And so she had to buy a new roof and didn't know what to do. I There was $4,000 in her paycheck, and I just had to put it there, and I didn't tell her about it. And then just I knew that I had the ability to help her, and then I did. Um, 6 months later, oh, my daughter got into a car wreck, and now I have this car wreck bill, and she's not telling me this stuff to get money out of me, but throw a couple of grand in her paycheck. It's like these things come back to us. Those are the people that typically won't go somewhere else for $1 an hour. If you think about, if they're working for you for 1,500 hours a year, it's $2 an hour, it's 3 grand a year. So it's a $2 an hour bump that you just gave them for 3 grand, or whatever. I mean, you think about silly numbers like that. If it works for your practice, if it works for you, how many of us spend a lot of money on silly things? Spend it on your team. Those little things will come back. So we get a lot of snow here once in a while. This year we actually did get much snow, but I would always ask them, like, how's your driveway? Do you need help? And it's just one of those things that I would drive around and do their driveways, and be out at 4:30 in the morning
Hmm.
doing their driveways, just because um, that was a big deal. They If they could get onto the road, they could get to work. And so a lot of times they couldn't get on the road because the snowplow pushed them in. So there it was.
I love that story. That one of those, and I got to ask, I wanted to ask her at the snowblower or shovel, Dr.
Oh,
Kemet.
snowblower.
Okay.
I, I
Just
mean, I'm
want to make
6'7". I got to save my back a little
want to
bit.
make sure you're not warming your back up for the day.
Yeah,
So, okay,
yeah.
good.
But it's
Very
just a
good.
little one, but it's a
Yeah,
snowblower.
very good. Hey, looking back, can you talk about anything that you wish you would have known that you would tell a young new doctor starting out before you got into this profession? And anything that you're back, you're talking to Dr. Kemet, he's 21. What are you going to say to him? What advice do you give to that young doctor?
Um, Dentistry is a tough profession. One of the things that is so hard for me is that I take insult as injury. If someone is whispering about me in a fashion that I didn't say that, like that is probably the key point that really bothers me, and I want to defend and say I didn't say that, I didn't say that. And sometimes you have to let it roll. And so you just have to have this thick skin, and to know that I wouldn't be that person. I wouldn't say that. And so it really goes into the be and practice who you are in your heart every day. Be that person, because your patients will know it, your team will know it, and whatever's said about you, everyone will defend you if that's the case. Um, And one of the things that I had that really, so the reason I joined Crown Counsel, to be 100% honest, a really close friend of mine, Dr. Bengar, many of you guys know him.
Yeah.
He's the only other Crown Counsel dentist in North Dakota.
Hmm.
Um, we were talking one day, traveling together. We typically take CE together, and I was going through something very difficult. I was actually going through a divorce, and it was so hard on me, because that's exactly that insult was my injury.
Hmm.
Um, and he told me, you need to get away. You need to come with us. And that was when we had the very first fishing trip.
Hmm.
And because it was postponed 1 year, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then so the next year in 21, it was on, and there was a spot. And so I joined. Um, and it's those friends that I needed. I needed to be able to be part of this group that helps me helps me get through those insults. Um, to say, I know that's not you, but I know you, and I know you really well. Some of my closest friends are now part of this group, or they've always been part of this group, but now I'm very good friends with them as well. So that that's where you need to focus, is focus on finding those people that are part of a support group for you. Dentistry is a hard profession. People are gonna rip you apart. You need people around you to help support you mentally, to be honest.
I love that. I want to share my screen. So this is my desktop. This is one of my most favorite pictures from the annual event. So I love this picture. When you are coming up to stage to receive your award, I am sure you're pointing at your now wife,
Yep.
because she was kind of the one behind the
Yeah.
award. But I just love that picture. I can tell a lot's going through your mind, but just so fun to.
It was so
That
fun.
was awesome.
And that's exactly it. I was pointing at her saying, "You got me." Um,
That's
just
so fun.
the silliest part about that was, you guys had teleprompter practice. I don't know if you remember that.
We did.
Um, and she is not afraid of anything. So she jumped up there first to do the teleprompter practice, and probably won some hearts over just by being the first to volunteer. She told me in front of Dr. Gar that there was a spouses meeting, and he looked at her and said, "Huh?
No, that's
I
not.
didn't know about this.
That was me.
Sonali's here. My wife is here. We didn't know about this." And she's like,
Oh,
"Don't say it. Not a spouses meeting."
spouses meeting. So good.
Oh, she got me good. I'm telling you, it was. It was.
I gotta show one more. We put this picture on the back of
I saw.
next year's brochure. I thought this was so fun. Look at your fun team throwing their hats.
Yeah,
Like it's just so cool.
yeah. You guys are awesome. They were very excited to see those pictures. So
Really fun. All right. Hey, well, one last question as we're coming in for a landing.
yeah.
Do you have any this question is kind of like a what comes next for you? What are your goals for changing dentistry or changing your community or your team? What's next?
Uh, I started a school for dental hygiene, dental assisting in North Dakota. I'm hoping it's going to go through. It's got some changes and some hard knocks to start up, I guess, but I'm hoping it's going to be okay. Um, Honestly, you had mentioned that changing the face of dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to understand how important dentistry is to medicine,
Mm.
and we look at, what is nature versus nurture. What does our DNA tell us that we should look like, how we should be? Look at all the ailments that are in the United States right now. Uh, Autism rates are going through the roof. I mean, we think about all the allergies and the things that we're almost saying it's okay that, oh, this child has a peanut allergy, whatever it is, and this person has autism, and it just happens. what are we doing? And is there something that dentistry can be part of in this conversation? There's a great doctor that he's a uh, sleep surgeon,
Mm.
the neurologist, and he in 2017 had a TEDx talk talking about how he looks in the mouth as a predictor for the future.
Mm.
Before any sleep study, before he's looking at any brain waves while they're sleeping, I want to see what's happening in the mouth because I can predict, he says, he can reliably predict issues 15 to 20 years ahead of
Wow.
anybody in medicine. Well, we do that. And so we're trying to, I hope that in the future, we're able to be brought into this medicinal realm and say, what can we do about the future? And how is dentistry not the evil, ugly
Mm.
stepchild of medicine, but we're
Mhm.
actually medicine? You can't feed this garbage and have a healthy body.
Yeah,
Um, you can't be healthy in one spot and unhealthy in another.
I love
So
that.
that's what I'm hoping the future and where the future lies in dentistry. And I hope to be part of that conversation. Again, it kind of goes back to my roots. Um, how does how does somebody who is a farmer, a well driller, a son of a nurse, able to help that? I think I'm in a unique position to sit back and kind of go, I think this correlates over here, and then we find the research to back that up.
Yeah, that is inspiring advice. I mean, at the we just were talking to Steve, and when he talks at the Total Immersion seminars, he talks about dentistry being the front lines of health. That besides the pharmacists, dentists are the profession in medicine that people are going to regularly
Yep,
and taking advice from. So I love to hear that. That's I agree. That is how the face of dentistry changes. So very
yep,
good.
100%.
Anything we missed? What else?
No, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, just appreciate you guys for being part of my life for the last 3 or 4 years now.
We're grateful for you. Thanks for sharing. I know you spent an hour on your day off. Come on, everyone. We got to get means a lot. So I'm grateful for you. All right. All right. Thanks, Dr. Kemet. We're grateful for your membership in Crown Council and the huge part of the community that you are. Our next interview is with Dr. Heather Walker. She won the Best Doctor to Work for a few years ago, 2023. And this is an interview we did shortly after that, where we talked about her office, the things that make her office special, the practice special, and why and what makes her culture of success work in her practice. So enjoy this interview with Dr. Heather Walker, and we'll say goodbye when she's done. All right, welcome to Crown Council's Mentor of the Month. I'm Stuart Anderson. And although your video says Becky, I don't
Yeah,
really
I don't know
believe
why.
that you. We are with Dr. Heather Walker, which is super fun because if you were at the annual event just a couple weeks ago, Best Doctor to Work For award, which was very fun to honor you on stage. How was that? Was that a big
I
surprise? Were you like, oh my goodness?
completely surprised. Like I said, full disclosure, I tried to get on to vote and ran out of time. So I honestly did not get to vote. And so I didn't even realize I was nominated until I got
Yes.
to the event. So yeah, that was a great surprise for
Very
sure.
fun, very fun. So that was Saturday night at the annual event. We recognized Best Doctor to Work For, Team Member of the Year, Team of the Year. So it was very fun to bring you up on stage. Although I did not realize time sure fly. I know that sounds so dumb. Time sure flies. So my records show you've been a member since 2011 as part of Crown Council. That's a lot of years already we've been together. Yeah,
Yep.
very good. Very good.
Yeah.
I've got a short little bio for Dr. Walker that she wrote herself. So just to introduce you, and I didn't know this about you. This is very cool. Okay, so you grew up in the Space Coast of Florida. Is that an official name or is that what you call it?
So I grew up on the very, very east coast of Florida. The
Okay.
town I'm from is actually called Indy Atlantic because we're in between the Indian River and the Atlantic Ocean. It's a little barrier island,
Okay.
but that's considered the Space Coast because we're only about 20 minutes south of Cape Canaveral.
Okay.
So like you could watch the shuttle launch from like our backyard. So
No
grew up with
way.
that kind of all around. And I grew up in the 80s. So when the
Nice.
space program was really, really big.
The Space Coast. I love that. I've
Coast.
never heard that before. Very good.
Yep.
Okay, so you attended the University of Florida, where you majored in microbiology, then attended the University of Louisville School of Dentistry, graduated in 2003. Then, as a Navy scholarship recipient, you completed your AE GD program in San Diego, and then practiced general dentistry. And I'm not even going to try to say this word.
Atsugi.
Atsugi, Japan for
Yep.
3 years. Very cool.
Yep.
After separating from the Navy, she worked as an associate in Shelbyville, Kentucky for just under 2 years. It was through that position that she made connections with Mortensen Family Dental Group and began working for Mortensen Family Dental in March 2009, where you've practiced since. So you are
Yep.
officially in Louisville. I mean, that's where you're practicing right now.
Yes, yeah. So I believe, and I don't want to misspeak, but since I'm from Florida, but after a while ago, Jefferson County became incorporated. So all of Jefferson County is considered Louisville. So there's
Okay.
still different parts, but we're all Louisville.
Let's hope we're not upsetting or offending anyone with
Right.
your geographical location. Very good. Maybe let's start with, just as an introduction, can you talk about your background in dentistry, how you chose this as a profession, if there were mentors or an experience that led you to dentistry?
So it's actually really funny. I always was interested in medical, never wanted to be a doctor, never wanted to be a medical doctor. My sister's a medical doctor, so, but never had that interest at all. I was really when I started at University of Florida, I was an engineering major. And so honestly, I got to differential equations and that was just a little bit too much math for me. And really and truly, I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, but I've always liked teeth. Really, I would say my orthodontist had more of an influence on me than my general dentist. I was a thumbsucker when I was a young kid.
Okay.
So I had a huge space between my front teeth. So just seeing the difference that it can make and how you can really change people's smiles, that kind of stuck with me. And like I said, so I was like, okay, well, this isn't for me, and kind of saw what I could do. And, dentistry did always just interest me. Science still interested me. And, it was definitely the right choice. I always joke, if for how much I talk every day to people, I would be miserable if I was stuck behind a desk, not getting to talk to anybody. So it was definitely the right move.
Very cool. And I love, just because it's such an interesting path, but if you've got stories or experiences from the Navy and what you learned there, I don't want to glamorize it if it wasn't glamorous, but if you've got some experiences there from what you learned in that experience, it'd be really fun to hear.
Yeah, no, it was great. So like I said, I'm from Florida. I interviewed at University of Florida and U of L for dental school. I got into both, but I really wanted to come here. So I was like, okay, well, how am I going to pay for it? So both my parents are retired Air Force. And Gainesville, Florida is very, very close to Jacksonville, which Jacksonville is a really big base. So I actually contacted them and recruited myself. And so then they interviewed me, and I was offered the scholarship for this position. People do always ask why I chose Navy over Air Force. Navy pays for all 4 years. Air Force only pays for 3 years. So that was a strategic move. But really, so while I was in school, I was considered, non-essential active duty. Louisville goes pretty consistently. So right after I graduated, I went to officer training school, which is different than boot camp, but still 6 weeks up in Rhode Island, waking you up at the crack of dawn, running, push-ups, all that kind of good stuff still. And then, like I said, I was in San Diego for 1 year doing an AEGD. I think they've changed the program now to where when I did it, it counted as one of the years payback. Now it does not. But pretty much it's a 4-for-4. They pay for the 4 years of dental school, and then you give them 4 years active duty. So San Diego was great. I mean, it's beautiful out there anyway, but we really got to see a lot and experience a lot. We were on 32nd Street, if anybody's familiar with the military. It's a pretty big station there. So during that time, we used to go and work at MCRD, which is the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot. So we would work on the recruits. We'd do restorative, do extractions, all that kind of good stuff. And then they arranged for each of us to go underway for a week. So I was on the Stennis, the aircraft carrier, the Stennis, for a week and doing that. Really, the crazy part is with doing dentistry is you're not really moving, but you feel like you're kind of moving like this when you're working. And at night, you have to bring all the chairs and the light, and everything gets bungeed down so nothing kind of moves around. So that was, definitely a fun experience. And then I actually got pregnant right before we were leaving. So we kind of were set for shore duty. So when I was in Japan, we were overseas, but it was shore duty. So I was on a base. Like I said, Atsugi is the kind of remote base to Yokosuka, which that's where the aircraft carrier, the Kitty Hawk, was out of. So we had all the fixed wing like Hornets and Super Hornets. So our base was very loud with all the air flight there, but it really, really was a lot like private practice in that when you're overseas, we saw spouses and dependents, and as well as the active duty.
Okay. And when young dentists approach you and they ask about that experience, do you say, absolutely, I loved it, you should do it, this is a great path? I mean, how do you approach that when it comes to advice for young docs?
100%. I would do it again
Cool.
in a heartbeat. Actually, when I was in San Diego, when people would come and like interview and kind of be interested, like they would have me take them around because I did have such a positive experience with it. So number one thing, full disclosure, I have zero debt, and I had zero debt coming out. So that's huge, especially being out of state. Again, this year will be 20 years since I graduated. So I know costs have just gone up. But I easily would have been like $250,000 in debt coming out of dental school, and I had none. At the same time too, because you're practicing and actually doing dentistry, you're getting all that experience. So you can be slow and learn how you do things, kind of on their time rather than on your own time. So I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously, so there were at least, I think 5 of us that were Navy in my class alone. 3 of us actually all went to San Diego together. So that was a nice experience. But one of my good friends, he went on to become an orthodontist, but before he got to do that, he was stationed over in Iraq. So he was, associated with the Marines because, the Navy takes care of the Marines, medical wise. So, I mean, there's definitely the possibility to be deployed, be underway, all those different things. I did have it very nice. Yes, Japan was far, but I was still never deployed. So there's I would say there's some risks as far as that goes, but again, it's still just all the experience that you can have. And, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I think it's a great opportunity.
That was very good. That was probably the most positive talk of any early dental experience I've ever heard. So that was awesome. Yeah. Okay, very good. So now you moved to be an associate, and was that planned? Was that kind of your own choice that you were like, okay, my next steps, I'm just going to see what private practice is like? I mean, can you talk about that?
So I knew I didn't want to stay in the Navy only because my husband is not military. And so even when we were in Japan, everybody's like, what's your husband do? I'm like, he's a really good sport because, he was just willing to go along for the ride. Also too, like I said, both my parents are retired Air Force, but my dad retired when I was 3. So I never had to move. And I just did not want that for my kids as far as moving around. So, coming back from Japan, there's a 13/14 hour time difference depending on, what time of year it is. And so, to try to get something arranged to, build my own practice, that was just kind of really not in the cards. Also to full disclosure, I've never really wanted to own my own practice. I enjoy dentistry. I enjoy the dentistry part of it. But I do like being done when I'm done for the day and not really having to carry that home. So I actually got my job through Dental Town when Dental Town was, around. So I worked at that location, which ironically now is a Mortensen Family Dental. He sold to Mortensen, so it's a Mortensen again now. So
Very cool. And uh, because I'm associated with the Young Dentist program, so there's about 50 young docs a year who join Crown Council right out of school, and they're always looking for advice and what do I do next? I mean, what advice would you give to them or any young doctor about joining like Mortensen? So here you are, you enter this group practice. Is that something that has been good for you? And looking back, how would you guide a young doctor to make sure that's the best experience they can have?
So I think you have to know what you're looking for. For me, it has, like I said, I really never wanted to own my own at U of L. And again, it's been so long, I don't know if they've really upped the training that they give us, but really it was like we had one class that was kind of like a game where, you're put in little groups and you try to run your practice and see how profitable you can be and things like that. So it was a little bit of the stress, but not anything near what real life would be as far as stress. And so that just never really interested me. Also, too, I knew I was going to do military. So obviously, that's like one of the biggest, associate practices kind of out there. But I think you have to know what you want. If you want to own your own, I think you know that. And I think that that's something that you should always do. Now, again, I can't speak for myself, but that may not be your first step out just because, again, I also came from no debt. I would not be looking to incur all that debt. I think that would be, for me, that would be super stressful. All the costs of just starting a business with being so fresh, so new with everything. I definitely am a more cautious person in that sense. So I don't think it would be wrong. And I think there's enough dentists out there that, it may not hurt to be an associate type position for the first 1 or 2 years. Again, kind of get your speed up when it's not, you can still be profitable and not, be so scared of what we're doing.
Right.
Also, too, I think it's great to have a mentor that can teach you the tips and tricks of things that have, not everything is textbook and real life happens. And in my location here, when we opened it, I was the solo doctor for maybe less than a year. We were lucky that we were that busy and somebody else came in. And it is really nice to have somebody else to talk to as far as, hey, you want to look at this x-ray with me? Or, even if you're like, oh my God, that was such a hard tooth to get out, you just kind of can vent to somebody. So if you're going to try to go on your own, you definitely would want to be part of like a local group that does meet, with Crown Council, but, something local where you could kind of have that support.
Yeah.
But one of the doctors that's working with me right now, he's a 2020 grad. So he was a pandemic grad. And, he does great dentistry, but, really in his heart of hearts, like he wants to do private practice. So he's going to be moving on and doing that. So I think, and I think it's, but that's the thing too, I joke, is that I'm so old now that I would never gonna go off and do my own thing. Whereas he's so fresh and so young, he's had that experience behind him, but he's at the point where he's not taking a huge step backwards as far as production or, profitability to kind of explore that. So I think that makes a difference.
Very cool. Great advice. Very wise. I love that. Over your years of serving as a dentist, one thing that we always ask that we love to hear from is what has guided your philosophy of care? How as part of the award that we did on stage, there was a lot of emphasis on how you do good. The things that you do as a dentist revolves around not just, I know all dentists do good, but the emphasis that you put on charity work and serving those outside your practice, what has kind of guided, or where have you created that philosophy of care from on how you run your practice?
So I'm very much a golden rule, live by the golden rule kind of person.
Okay.
And I know I'm very aware that I grew up very fortunate, and I know that a lot of other people do not. So I I think that it's important to give back. And especially now that I have a skill that not everybody has. Mortensen does hold some days of free dentistry where we go ahead and do that. So I like to participate in those. But at the same time too, we are a very, very high Medicaid office. And so, my biggest thing is I just treat everybody how they should be treated. You are just a person that walks through the door. You're not an insurance, you're not a wallet or anything like that, and just treat everybody the way that they should be treated. And I think that everything just kind of ends up working out that way. We can stress about the little things, but if you always do what you're supposed to do, everything just always works out. So, I just know, I want to be that example. I think it's important to be able to give back like that.
Very good. I love that. And I'll go to the Dominican this Saturday. You're going to leave on the 11th, which
Yep.
is the next Saturday. Tell us what you're looking forward to most there, or why you signed up to serve on a Smiles for Life humanitarian trip.
So it's something that I wanted to do for a really long time. Like I said, when I was in undergrad, I used to volunteer during spring breaks. So like I said, I've done, homeless shelters and AIDS clinics and, women's shelters and different things like that. But I never really had a skill to give, like a specific skill to give. And then, life just kind of got busy. So really, I was actually signed up to do the 2022, but that's when Omicron came and the Dominican, government shut it down. So, made sure we were doing it this year. And really, I kind of said, I'm selfish. I'm doing it for me, really and truly.
I don't think that applies here. I don't know.
Well, you might want to ask me afterwards how selfish I am, but no,
Okay.
I think, no matter what clientele you see, there's a lot of ungrateful people out in the world. And you can definitely put that out there. But when all you kind of get back sometimes is negative, I'm just really, really excited to go and work with people that, really have the need and are really, really appreciative. So again, I'm doing it to fill my bucket for sure with that.
Very good. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Very good. All right. So as we kind of wrap up, one thing we always ask, which I think is a really fun, kind of enlightening question, is if you were to do it again, or if you were to time machine back and meet Heather 20 years ago, what advice would you give yourself about what you've learned and what you've become? Anything stand out?
I don't think I changed anything. I really, really don't. Again, like I said, with the Navy, I would still tell myself to do that. I've actually, like I said, when people come through, I encourage them. If any sort of patients show interest, they can always shadow and do that. I do think that, I don't really think I change much.
That's good.
Maybe stress a little bit less about certain things, but like I said, I just kind of try to let it go. I don't try to fester on things. I will say I get a massage once a month for my back. I may have started that a little bit earlier. But other than that, just really kind of taking care of yourself. And like I said, if this is what you enjoy doing, just, do what you enjoy. Life is definitely far too short for that.
I love that. And is there anything that you are doing now that you feel other doctors could learn from, whether the training your team or how you treat your patients? Are there 2 or 3 things that you do that you would advice that you would give to doctors?
So there's 2 things that I would say. One, again, treat your patients how you'd want to be treated. People like when you remember them. They like when you know things. I do have kind of a crazy memory, so I can remember these things. But even if you have to rely on your staff, being personable, like they really feel like they matter. And that makes a huge, huge difference. We're not the most, sought after career. People like to come in and they say they don't like us, but, a lot of times that's either pain or fear talking. Just, I try to praise people. Sometimes the first step is just walking in. I'm really proud that you did that. I think people, whether they say it or not, they need to feel kind of validated in that way. As far as kind of more of a numbers thing, like I said, I've done it with the associate that just came in, but what we do is I kind of came up with writing down what our goal starts for the day, like our production goal for the day, and then writing a goal of what we're going to do. So this is just kind of a starting point. Where can we go from there? But when you get busy with the day, and so our office is a teeny tiny office. We like to say it's the closet under the cupboard under the stairs from Harry Potter. It's that tiny. But we each have our own computer with our set up. So we'll put our sticky notes up there. So it's something that you can see visible, but you see the start for the day, and you see, whether it's convert to patients or, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Sometimes if it's a great day, it's maintaining that schedule, but really setting a goal so that you can see that and it's visible, so that you don't just kind of let the day get away from you. And then you wonder what's happened. For how we are too, how the staff walks by, they've noticed our goals, excuse me. And so they're really on board, as far as, trying to make that, same, work for the whole office. And then I guess one last thing that we do, which is fun, is I painted one of the back walls in the break room with chalkboard paint. So we kind of write chalkboard messages, but we also like to kind of try to catch people doing good. So we'll put stickies, and once a week for our huddle, when we have that, we actually have like a prize win, like a prize wheel. So all the good sayings go into a hat, and we draw one, and that person gets to spin for something. So yeah.
Great advice. Really fun stuff. Very good. Well, Heather, grateful for you, thankful for Mortensen Family Dental, and not only the example that you guys set as a group, but all the good that comes from the practices that you guys are a part of. I mean, everything that is happening with Smiles for Life, the humanitarian trips, and just the leadership that comes from Mortensen Family Dental Group. Thank you. Very grateful for you.
We had Dr. Wayne's my favorite. So we had an excellent mentor from the start, for sure.
Very cool. Hey, well, thank you. Enjoy the Dominican. Yeah, I'll do it too. I don't think we cross paths. We leave the Saturday that you arrive, but let's connect and share stories. So
sounds wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Heather. Grateful for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Crown Council Live today. We will be back next week. We're grateful for all those that tune in, whether recorded or live. We're grateful for this community and thankful to be a part of it with you. Thanks, everybody.